chosen one. Yes, you. The one who went still the moment something old came knocking, soft-voiced at a strange hour, asking a casual question that landed nowhere near casual. Before we begin, do something for me. Sit down. Wherever you are, find a place where your back has something to rest against. Put your phone face down, not away, not off, just face down so nothing can flicker at you while we talk. Unclench your jaw. You probably didn't notice you were holding it. Most chosen ones don't. Now breathe all the way out. Not halfway, all the way, until there's nothing left, and let the next breath come on its own. Good. That's the chosen one I'm speaking to. Now let's talk about what happened, because someone was sent to test you. The test came back blank, and this message found you for a reason. Someone came around recently. I don't know the shape it took for you. Maybe it was a message that arrived after a long stretch of nothing. Maybe it was a visit, an unexpected one, framed as being in the neighborhood. Maybe it was a question that sounded casual, tossed off, almost bored. How have you been? What are you working on these days? Are you still doing that thing? It felt random. It felt like nothing. It was not nothing. Somebody wanted to know if the old wiring still worked. That's what that was. Not a reunion, not concern, a test. A quiet, deniable, low-cost test, sent to find out whether the buttons they used to press still connected to anything inside you. Because here's what you have to understand about the way they operated. They never actually controlled you. They controlled your reaction. That was the whole machine. Say the thing that made you defend yourself. Say the thing that made you over-explain. Say the thing that made you reach out, follow up, prove something. They didn't need power over your life. They only needed a reliable response. And for a long time, they had one. Then you went quiet. And quiet is the one thing they cannot read. So they sent something to check. And here's the part I want you to sit with. You answered evenly. You were polite. You were even kind. But you didn't explain yourself. You didn't fill the silence with your resume of suffering. You didn't chase the conversation after it ended. You didn't ask the follow-up question that would have shown you still cared what they thought. The test came back blank. Now, you might think a blank result is a small thing, a non-event. Nothing happened, so nothing changed. That's wrong, and I need you to hear why. A blank result is not the absence of information. A blank result is the most devastating information there is, because it means the instrument they were using no longer registers anything at all. Imagine this, a sealed envelope held up against a lamp, someone standing there in a dim room, turning it, tilting it, squinting, trying to read what's inside without ever opening it. Because opening it would mean admitting they wanted to know. So they hold it to the light and they wait for a shape to show through. And nothing shows through. The paper is thicker than they thought, and now they're standing there holding an envelope, learning nothing, and knowing that you know they were holding it. If any of this is landing, do me one favor. Hit the like button and subscribe. Not for me. This message travels by hand, one person at a time, and every like puts it in front of somebody else sitting in the dark with an unclenched jaw, wondering if they imagined the whole thing. Pay it forward to the mission. Now stay with me, because it gets better. Think about what happens on their side after a blank result. They planned for 2 outcomes. Outcome 1, you react hot. You defend, you argue, you get emotional, and they get to say you haven't changed. Outcome 2, you react cold. You go silent in an obvious way, a wounded way, a way that broadcasts that it still hurts. And they get to say you're bitter, that you never let it go. You gave them neither. You gave them a warm, unremarkable, completely closed door. Imagine this: a car parked at the edge of a field at night, and a hand turning a radio dial back and forth across a frequency that used to carry a station. Slow at first, then faster, then slow again past the same spot, because surely it was right here. Static and more static, and underneath the static, nothing but the sound of the air itself. The dial still turns. The speaker still works. The tower simply stopped transmitting, and nobody sent a letter to say so. That hand will keep turning for a long time before it accepts what the silence means. They thought silence meant you were weak. Instead, silence meant they lost visibility. They thought patience meant you were waiting. Instead, patience meant you were building. They thought being ignored would break you. Instead, being ignored taught you exactly how much of your life had been spent performing for an audience that was never going to applaud. No, you didn't miss a step. No, you didn't go too far. You did the one thing that cannot be undone. Here's the line they can't say out loud. They never had power over you. They had a shortcut to your nervous system, and you closed it. That's the whole story. That's the panic you're sensing in the air, the strange energy, the sudden interest from people who had no interest for years. They are not curious about your life. They are auditing their own leverage, and the audit is coming back empty. So let me give you the image I want you to carry through everything that follows. Every section, every step, every explanation ahead of us comes back to this one fact, and you should say it out loud if you're somewhere you can. The button is dead. They can press it. They will press it. They will press it in new ways, with new faces, with softer voices and better excuses. And nothing will happen. No light, no sound, no current. Just a finger on a piece of plastic, wired to a room that was emptied a long time ago. The button is dead, chosen one, and they are only now finding out. Here is something you already know, even if you have never put it into words. This does not only happen to you. It happens everywhere ordinary people gather and quietly decide who moves and who stays. The shape is always the same. Only the costumes change. Picture the office. A reassignment gets floated, not announced, floated. A softer desk, a smaller room, a title with one word shaved off it. Nobody says it is a demotion. Nobody says it is anything at all. They say it casually, near the end of the day, and then they watch. Because the reassignment was never the point. The watching was the point. They wanted to know if you would come back that evening and ask for your old desk. They wanted the sound of you negotiating. That sound is data. That sound tells them exactly how much you can be moved and at what price. Picture the family dinner. The old story comes out again. The one about the year you struggled, the choice you made, the thing you got wrong before you knew better. Everybody has heard it. Everybody has heard it many times. So why tell it again? Because nobody tells a story that old for the story. They tell it for your face. They want the flush in your neck. They want the 2 seconds where you look down at your plate. That flinch is the whole reason the story survived this long. Picture the friend group. A small exclusion, not a fight, nothing you could point at. A gathering you heard about afterward, a thread you noticed you were not on. Petty enough that naming it would make you look unwell. And that is precisely the design. They wanted to see whether you would call, whether you would soften it, whether you would arrive with an apology for something you did not do, just to make the room comfortable again. Picture the industry. A lowball number arrives. It is not an offer. It is a question wearing the clothes of an offer. The number is a probe sent to measure your sense of your own worth. If you counter with panic, they learn the ceiling. If you accept quickly, they learn there is no floor. 4 rooms, 1 structure. Every single time, a cheap action designed to buy expensive information about your reactions. That is what a test is. Almost free to send. Enormously valuable if it works. Imagine this. A shopkeeper at the close of day counting the till. Nothing dramatic. He simply removes a small sum, one that could plausibly be a rounding error, and he waits. Not to steal. Not yet. He is asking a question. Does anyone notice? Does anyone count? If the drawer goes unexamined, tomorrow he will take a little more, and the day after, more still. The first small sum was never about the money. It was a survey of the attention in the building. That is what was sent to you, a small sum removed from the drawer to see if you were still counting. Now hear the part that changes everything. People who can control you directly do not need to test you. They simply instruct and it is done. The test only appears when the leverage is uncertain, when they have lost the map of you and cannot navigate by memory anymore. Predictability is the real currency here, not money, not title, not who is louder in the room. If someone knows precisely which sentence makes you defend yourself, which memory makes you shrink, which silence makes you fill the air, then they do not need authority over you. They already have the remote. Here's the line they can't say out loud. Nobody tests what they already command. Read that again slowly, chosen one. The existence of the test is the confession. It is the admission in the only language they are willing to speak that the old buttons were reported missing. They would not have checked if they were sure. Certainty does not send scouts. Certainty does not float a desk, retell a story, drop a name from a list, or offer a number it knows will be refused. So no, you did not misread it. No, you are not making something out of nothing. You noticed a survey being taken and you declined to fill it out. And here is what happens next. Because the probe failed, they now have to guess. A guess has to be paid for. It costs hours they did not budget. It costs nerve they do not have in reserve. It makes people move badly and reveal themselves in the process, which is exactly what you are beginning to watch happen. Which brings us to the part you actually came for, not the reassurance, the breakdown. 12 pieces of what your non-reactions set in motion in the precise order it unfolds, so that you can recognize each stage while you are standing inside it. This is the part of the video where the road forks. Some of you are here because the title caught your eye. That's fine, you're welcome here. But in about 30 seconds, the merely curious are going to drift off. They'll feel it. This stops being entertainment and starts being specific, and specific is uncomfortable when it isn't about you. So, they'll go. Let them go. And the rest of you, the ones this was actually made for, are going to do the opposite. You're going to lean in. You're going to get quiet. Because you already know we're about to name the thing you've been carrying without words. So here's what I'm asking. If you're locked in, drop 777 in the comments. Not for luck, not because it's a trend, not because a number on a screen changes anything about your life. It doesn't. Those 3 digits are a signal, nothing more. A way of raising your hand in a dark room so the others can see they aren't alone in it. You'll be surprised how many hands go up. What comes next isn't more encouragement. You've had enough encouragement. What comes next is the breakdown. 12 pieces, in order. precise. What they sent, why they sent it, what your stillness actually did to them. What happens now that they know their leverage is gone? Step by step, nothing skipped, nothing softened. No, you didn't miss anything, chosen one. You were early, and early always feels like alone. Let's start where it started. Number 1, the visit that wasn't random. Nothing that arrives on that particular day arrives by accident. You've been telling yourself it was coincidence, an old contact surfacing, a message after months of nothing. A conversation that started light and drifted somehow into the exact subject that used to unmake you. You told yourself the timing was luck. It wasn't luck. It was a measurement. Think about when it happened. Not the week before, not the month after. It happened the moment your rise became visible to them. The moment something in your posture changed and they could no longer read you from a distance. That is when people stop guessing and start testing. And here is the mechanism, chosen one. Leverage has to be maintained. A person who believes they can move you has to periodically confirm that the mechanism still works. They cannot ask you directly. Asking would expose the whole arrangement. So they send something small, a remark, a story with a hook buried inside it, a question dressed as concern. They are not looking for an answer. They are looking for a flicker, a tightening in your face, a pause that lasts a half second too long. Imagine this: a thermometer slipped quietly into a pot of water. No announcement. Nobody says out loud what they're checking for. The glass goes in, sits a moment, comes out, and the reading is taken in private. The water never knows it was measured, but the person holding that thermometer walks away knowing exactly how much heat is left and exactly what they can still do with it. That conversation was the thermometer. You were the water. And the number that came back was not the number they wanted. You might wonder why it felt so ordinary if it was really that deliberate. Because deliberate things are designed to feel ordinary. A test that announces itself is not a test. It's a warning. They had no interest in warning you. They had every interest in learning where you stood without you ever learning that they'd looked. Here's the line they can't say out loud. The test was never about your reaction. It was about whether they still had one to collect. No, you didn't miss a step. No, you didn't go too far. You've been replaying it, wondering if you were cold, wondering if you should have offered more. You offered exactly the right amount. Nothing. Because the currency they came to collect was your reaction, and you were closed for business. Look at the timing again, because the timing is the proof. Tests arrive when leverage becomes uncertain. Nobody audits a debt they are certain of collecting. Nobody takes a temperature they already know. The visit itself is the confession. It tells you that before that day, they had stopped being certain of you. It tells you the doubt was already living on their side of the room. And it tells you they needed evidence badly enough to risk asking for it. They walked away with their evidence. It just wasn't the evidence they came for. The button is dead, and they were the ones who confirmed it. That's why they've been quiet since. Number 2. Keys cut for a lock that no longer exists. They came holding a key ring for a door you already changed. Understand what the test actually was, chosen one. It was not aimed at you, not at the whole of you. It was aimed at 3 or 4 specific reactions, cataloged over years, filed away, kept ready. The way you used to explain yourself when your name came up wrong. The way you used to answer fast when someone left a silence for you to fill. The way you used to apologize first, just to end the discomfort. The way you used to justify a decision nobody had the standing to question. Those were the keys. That was the whole ring. And here is what people misunderstand about being studied. Nobody who watches you closely is watching all of you. That would take love, and this was not love. It was inventory. They kept the parts of you that could be moved, and they discarded the rest, because the rest was never useful to them. So the probe came in narrow, a comment shaped a certain way, a reference to the one decision they knew you had never fully settled with yourself, a pause left open on purpose for you to walk into. Imagine this, a person standing at a door in the evening, working an old key ring, one key at a time. The first key slides halfway and stops. They wiggle it. They pull it out, check the notches, try it again. The second key does not even enter. The third goes in and turns a quarter turn and then meets something solid it does not recognize. They keep going. They try every key twice, because the mind refuses the simple explanation. The lock was rekeyed, quietly, without an announcement, without a locksmith's van parked out front for the neighbors to notice. The door is the same door. The paint is the same paint. The handle looks exactly like it did last year, but the pins inside are cut to a pattern their keys were never made for. You might wonder why they kept trying long after it clearly was not working. Because the keys used to work. Because those keys worked for years, reliably, without effort. And a tool that has never failed is the last thing anyone suspects. That is the mechanism. Not one big betrayal. A handful of small keys cut for a version of you that no longer answers the door. Notice what that means about the timeline. They did not stop knowing you recently. They stopped knowing you a while ago, and nobody told them, because you did not announce the change. You changed the lock during the season when they were not paying attention to you at all. That is precisely when it happened. Their inattention was the privacy you needed. Here is the line they can't say out loud. The moment you stopped explaining yourself, you took the copy of you they were holding and made it worthless. That is why the test unsettled them so badly. Not because you were harsh. You were not harsh. You were pleasant. You were unhurried. You answered the question that was asked, and not the accusation hidden underneath it, and you let the pause sit there without rushing to fill it. The button is dead, and you did not even look down to check. So let them keep testing keys in the dark. The lock does not owe them an explanation. Number 3. Silence returns no reading. You cannot measure a still surface. Here is the part they did not plan for. Your calm did not just cost them a moment of satisfaction. It cost them information. And information was the only thing that ever made their approach work. Every button they pressed in the past came back with a reading. A flinch told them one thing. A rushed explanation told them another. A long message at midnight told them the most of all. They were not just winning those exchanges. They were collecting. So when they sent someone to test you, they were not looking for a fight. They were looking for a number, a temperature, a sign that the old map still matched the territory. And you gave them nothing. Not coldness, not a performance of indifference, just stillness. A person who heard the question and did not need to answer it. Imagine this, a fishing line going slack in the water, the hook untouched. The hand at the other end waiting for the smallest tug, because a tug tells you where the fish is, how big it is, which way it will run. No tug comes, and that hand starts to wonder whether the fish left the lake entirely, or whether it is right there, watching the bait, unbothered. That wondering is the mechanism. Guessing is expensive. Guessing is slow. Guessing makes people second-guess their own instincts, and people who have relied on leverage for years have no practice at it. They spent all that time building a system precisely so they would never have to guess about you. You were the predictable one. That was your assigned role. You might wonder why they seem so restless now, why the follow-ups keep coming, why one probe turned into 3. Because an opponent without fresh data cannot stop probing. Every silence deepens the fog. Every unanswered message makes the picture older. They are not persisting because they are strong. They are persisting because they are blind. Notice too what you did not have to do. You did not have to explain your position. You did not have to correct the record. You did not have to prove you had changed. Stillness did all of it, and stillness costs you nothing, chosen one. It does not drain you. It does not require an audience. It simply refuses to generate the signal they came for. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They never needed you to lose. They only needed you to respond. That is why the panic looks so strange from the outside. Nothing dramatic happened. No confrontation, no final word. Just a quiet day where the button was pressed and nothing came back. And in that quiet, a system that ran on your reactions lost its power source. No, you didn't miss a step. No, you didn't go too far. You simply stopped broadcasting, chosen one. They can still watch you. They can still ask around. They can still send another test dressed up as concern. But they cannot read you anymore. And a reader who cannot read is just a person standing in the dark, hoping something moves. Nothing is going to move. Number 4. Your own alarm never sounded. The loudest evidence of change is the noise that did not happen. Something happened in that room, and it was not between you and them. It was inside you. That is the part they cannot see and cannot measure. They were watching your face. They should have been watching your pulse. Think about what used to happen. The heat would arrive first, a spike in the chest, right under the breastbone. Then the defense would start assembling itself, fast, sentence by sentence, before they even finished speaking. Then the explanation, the one you had rehearsed 100 times in the car, in the shower, at 2 a.m, staring at the ceiling. That was the sequence. Heat, defense, explanation. Every time. This time, none of it came. Not the heat, not the defense, not the explanation you spent years perfecting. You waited for it, honestly. Some part of you stood there, expecting the old machinery to start up on schedule. It stayed quiet. And in that quiet, you learned something they will never learn about you. Imagine this, a smoke alarm on the ceiling of a house. For years, it went off at nothing. Steam from a shower, toast a shade too dark, a candle across the room. The people inside stopped trusting it, and they stopped trusting themselves, because they lived braced for a sound that meant nothing. Then someone finally opened it up and replaced the faulty wiring inside. Now a person walks through that house making the same steam, the same toast, the same small, ordinary heat, and the ceiling says nothing. That silence is not a broken alarm. That silence is a repaired one. It will still scream at real fire. It simply will not scream at you anymore. That is your nervous system, chosen one. rewired, not numb. You might wonder whether the calm was just avoidance, whether you swallowed something instead of feeling it. Look at what came after. Avoidance leaves residue. Avoidance means you replay the scene for 3 days and write the perfect reply at midnight. You did not do that. You went to sleep. You woke up and thought about something else entirely. Nothing leaked. That is not suppression. Suppression charges interest, and you were charged nothing. Understand what this means about time. The work you thought was going nowhere was going here. Every night you did not send the message. Every conversation you walked away from without the last word. Every time you chose to be misunderstood rather than defend yourself to someone who was not really asking. You thought you were failing to stand up for yourself. You were laying cable. You were replacing the wiring one strand at a time, in the dark, with nobody clapping. No, you did not miss a step. No, you did not go too far. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They did not lose their power over you. You simply stopped generating it for them. That is the whole mechanism. Their leverage was never in their hands. It was in your reaction, manufactured fresh by you, on demand, every single time they pulled. The supply has been cut at the source, and because they never had it to begin with, they have nothing to take back, nothing to renegotiate, nothing to threaten. The button is dead because the wire behind it was replaced. You did not stay calm that day. You became someone who is. Number 5. What used to pull you slid right past. Not everything that once moved you was ever truly yours. There was more than one lever in that box, and they pulled every one of them. The guilt line came first, because guilt was always the cheapest tool available. After everything I did for you. They said it the same way they had said it 100 times before, with the same little pause afterward, waiting for your face to change. It didn't change. Then came the nostalgia line. Remember how it used to be? Remember when we were close? Softer, warmer, aimed at the part of you that used to ache. It landed on nothing. And then the last one, the one they saved. The offer of a smaller seat at a familiar table. Come back. There's room for you. Not the room you earned, of course. A smaller one, a polite one. A place where you would be welcome as long as you stayed the size they remembered. You said no without heat. And that is the part that ruined them. Because none of this happened in a quiet room. There were witnesses. People were watching when the guilt line came out and died in the air. People saw the nostalgia offered and not taken. People watched a seat get pushed toward you and watched you leave it empty. Every one of those people learned something in that moment that no amount of talking can unteach. Imagine this. A magnet dragged slowly through dry sand. It moves through the whole length of it, patient, thorough, certain of what it will find. And it comes up clean. Nothing clinging to it, nothing pulled loose. Not because the magnet grew weak, but because what it was reaching for simply isn't in there anymore. That was them, moving through you, searching for iron. There was none left to take. You might wonder why they seem so much more shaken than the size of the moment would explain. Because private failure is cheap, and public failure is expensive. In private, a failed lever costs them one attempt. They can try again tomorrow, adjust the tone, pick a better hour. In public, a failed lever costs them the story. It tells every person in the room that the thing they were told about you was never true, and worse, that the person telling it knew which strings to pull and pulled them and got nothing. That is not a bad afternoon. That is a reputation quietly changing hands. They can survive being refused, chosen one. What they cannot survive is being watched while it happens. Here's the line they can't say out loud. The lever didn't break in your hands. It broke in front of everyone. And now they all know it was never attached to anything. And notice what you did not do. You didn't argue. You didn't announce anything. You didn't stand up and declare that the old rules were finished. You just let the old rules meet the new you in front of company, and the room did the rest. The button is dead, and this time they had an audience when they pressed it. Number 6. Then they loaded it heavier. Escalation is not confidence, it is doubt asking a second time. The first test came back blank, no flare, no defense. No long message written at midnight and deleted at dawn. And that blankness did something they were not ready for. It left them without a reading. So they did what people always do when the instrument returns nothing. They turned the pressure up and ran it again. That is what the second wave was. Heavier words, a sharper messenger, a story with more edges on it, told a little louder, aimed a little closer to the place that used to bruise. You felt the weight of it, and you thought it meant they were sure of themselves. It meant the opposite. Certainty does not repeat itself. Certainty walks away satisfied. Only doubt comes back with more. Imagine this. A bridge stands finished, inspected, signed off. And then, one gray morning, an engineer rolls a fully loaded truck onto it. Slow, deliberate, watching the joints, watching the cables, watching for the smallest tremble in the deck. He is not doing that because he believes the report. He is doing it because he does not. A man who trusts the numbers drives across at normal speed and never looks down. The slow, heavy crossing is confession. It says the paperwork failed to convince him, so he came to feel the answer with his own weight. They rolled the loaded truck across you, and you did not tremble. You might wonder why that second push felt so much worse than the first. Because it was aimed better. The first probe was general, a hand feeling along the wall in the dark. The second was informed by everything the first one failed to find. They removed what did not work and doubled what they hoped might. That precision is not power, chosen one. That precision is the sound of someone running out of options and spending their best material early. And here is what that schedule tells you about the results. Nobody retests a conclusion they are happy with. Nobody goes back to verify good news. The escalation is not a sign that they have more leverage than you thought. It is a receipt proving the first reading came back exactly as you hoped and exactly as they feared. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They did not press harder because you were weak. They pressed harder because the button is dead and they were praying it was only stuck. So stop grading the second wave by how heavy it landed. Grade it by why it was necessary at all. A person who still had a hold on you would not need to prove it twice. They would simply use it and move on with their day. The repeat is the tell. The volume is the tell. The extra effort is the whole confession, written in their handwriting, delivered by their courier, signed by their own impatience. They loaded the truck to break the bridge. All they did was certify it. Number 7. The report came back empty. The messenger returned with nothing, and nothing was the news. Someone had to carry the result back. That is the part you never got to see. There was a conversation on their side, and it went badly. Worse than any argument you could have handed them. Worse than shouting. Worse than tears. Because they were waiting to hear what you did, and the answer was that you did not do anything at all. Understand what they had prepared for. They had a plan for your anger. They knew the shape of it. They knew how long it lasted, what you would say first, what you would say when you got tired. They had responses ready, counters ready. A whole quiet architecture built on the assumption that you would react. What they did not have was a plan for your calm. Nobody builds a plan for calm. Calm looks like nothing until it is everything. So the messenger sat down and said the only thing there was to say. Nothing happened. He was fine. She was fine. It was a normal conversation. And in that room, something went cold. Not loud. Cold. Imagine this. A scout leaves the hive and comes back into the dark, and the whole colony turns toward her, waiting for the dance. The angle of the body, the tilt toward the sun, the direction that tells everyone where to go. That is how the colony moves. That is how it eats. And she lands, and she is still. No angle, no tilt, no direction. Thousands of small bodies waiting on a signal that never comes. The hive does not know how to be a hive without it. That silence is not one bee failing. That silence is the whole structure realizing it has no map. You might wonder why your non-answer landed harder than any answer could have. Because an answer is data, and data can be worked with. Anger tells them the pressure point is still live. Sadness tells them the pressure point is still live. Explanation tells them where you are soft and how long you will stay there. Silence tells them nothing, and nothing cannot be countered. You cannot build a strategy against a wall that will not describe itself to you. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They were never afraid of your reaction. They were afraid you would stop having one. That is the whole thing, chosen one. Your reaction was the leash. It was the only rope between their intention and your day. Every time you responded, you handed them the other end and told them you were still reachable. You stopped handing it over. Now they are standing in a room, holding a rope attached to nothing, telling each other it must have been the messenger's fault. It was not the messenger's fault. The button is dead, and they are only just now beginning to say it out loud. Number 8. Their circuit has no breaker now. Control needs a wire, and the wire ran through your reaction. Almost nobody understands this about the ones who tested you. Their calm was never their own, it was borrowed. Every ounce of steadiness they walked around with was on loan from their ability to guess what you would do next. They did not feel safe because they were strong. They felt safe because they were certain. And certainty about you was the whole foundation. So when the one they sent came back with nothing, the loss was not a loss of influence. It was a loss of weather reports. They are not standing in a storm. They are standing in a place where they can no longer tell what the sky is going to do, and they built their entire house assuming they always would. Imagine this. A fuse box on a basement wall, and one fuse in it that used to blow every few weeks like clockwork. That blown fuse was annoying, but it was also proof. Proof the current was flowing. Proof the thing on the other end was drawing power. Proof the system was alive and behaving the way the diagram said it would. Now that fuse has not blown in months. Nothing is burned, nothing is tripped. And the person standing in front of that box is not relieved. They are unsettled, because a fuse that never blows means the load it was protecting has been disconnected from the line entirely. The wire still runs to the wall. There is just nothing on the other side of it drawing anything anymore. You might wonder why they seem more agitated now than when you were actually fighting with them. Because conflict gave them a signal, and a signal was the only stabilizer they ever had. When you argued, the meter moved. When you went quiet in a way that obviously hurt, the meter moved. Peace does not move the meter at all, and people who never developed real internal steadiness cannot last long without something external to read. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They were never managing you. They were managing their own fear, and you were the instrument they used to do it. Let that reframe the whole thing, chosen one. Their composure was never a character trait. It was a byproduct of your predictability. Take away the prediction, and what is left is simply a person who never learned to hold themselves steady, standing in a room that has gone quiet for the first time. You do not owe them a reading. You do not owe them a flicker. Their circuit was always powered by your reaction, and you unplugged it without ever raising your voice. Number 9. Now they are watching for signs of life. They are not looking at you anymore. They are looking for you. There is a moment when the whole nature of their attention changes, and most people miss it because it arrives dressed as kindness. For a long stretch, they were managing you, steering, nudging, timing their moods so yours would follow. That is a posture of control, and control is a kind of confidence. But when the probe came back empty, when the old lever moved and nothing on your end moved with it, control quietly turned into surveillance. They stopped handling you. They started studying you. You can read it in the details. The sudden interest in your week, the name that resurfaced in your messages after months of nothing, the warmth that showed up with no apology attached to it, because an apology would be an admission, and they are not ready to admit anything yet. They just need data. They need to know if there is still something in there that answers to them. Imagine this, a mirror held under the nose of someone sleeping, held by a hand that is trembling slightly, waiting for the glass to fog. That is what those friendly little messages are. Not affection, instrumentation. They are not reaching out to you. They are checking for breath. Every casual question is the mirror turning toward the light. Every mention of the past is another second of holding still, staring at cold glass, waiting for the faintest gray bloom that says the old thing is still alive in there. And it does not fog. That is the part they cannot process. You might wonder why their sudden friendliness feels so hollow, so oddly weightless, when a year ago you would have taken it as proof that things were finally turning. Because it is not being offered to you, it is being tested on you. Warmth given as a probe has no nutrition in it. Your body knows that before your mind does, which is why you can read a perfectly pleasant message and feel absolutely nothing rise up to meet it. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They are not afraid you changed. They are afraid you finished. Because change can be argued with. Finished cannot. Finished means the version of you they had a manual for is gone, and there is no updated edition coming. Their entire model of you is out of date, and every friendly check-in is them trying to redraw a map of a country that has already moved. So let them hold the mirror. Let them stare. Let them wait for a fog that is never coming, chosen one. Because the button is dead, and no amount of warmth applied to a dead button will make it work again. They are not watching to see how you are. They are watching to see if they still exist to you. Number 10. You did not grow harder. You grew deeper. Calm is not armor. It is depth. They have a word for what happened to you now. Cold. Distant. Changed. They say it with concern in their voice and something else underneath it. something closer to complaint. Because what they are actually reporting is not a change in your temperature. It is a change in your location. You did not get colder. You moved. Here is the mechanism, and it is simpler than they want it to be. For years, your center of gravity sat out where they could touch it. Their moods set your weather. Their approval set your posture. A sigh from them could reorganize your whole afternoon. So when they came around with the old routine, it worked, because the thing they were reaching for was sitting right there on the surface, exposed, easy to grab. Then something shifted, slowly, without an announcement. Your center went down, past the reach of anything they carry. And now when they arrive with the same hands, they close on nothing. That reads as coldness to them. It is not coldness. It is distance they cannot cross. Imagine this. A young tree stands in a hard country. Every winter the frost drives down into the ground and finds its shallow roots and takes half of them. And every spring the tree spends its whole strength growing back what it lost. Then one year, quietly, underground, where nobody is watching, the roots push past a certain line. Below that line, the ground never freezes. Nothing up above looks different. Same bark, same branches. But the next winter comes with the same teeth it always had, and the tree simply stands there, not fighting the cold, not even noticing it. The season that used to be a life or death event is now just weather happening to somebody else's part of the world. That tree did not toughen up. It went down. You might wonder why they seem almost offended by your peace. Because your peace is evidence. Every calm answer you give is a small public report that the old machinery has been retired. And nobody likes standing next to a machine that stopped working while they are still pulling the lever. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They did not lose you when you left. They lost you when you stopped needing them to be different. No, you did not go too far. No, you did not lose your heart somewhere along the way. You buried it deeper, which is the only way anything survives a hard season twice. They keep pressing. Nothing lights up. The button is dead, and the wiring underneath it was pulled out a long time ago, in the quiet, by you. Let them call it cold, chosen one. Cold is just the word the surface uses for a depth it has never been to. Number 11. Time changed sides. Waiting used to be your cost. Now it is theirs. There was a season when delay was the thing that hurt you most. Every hour without an answer was an hour of ache. Every silence felt like a verdict. You paid for time in worry, in rewritten messages, in sleep you never got back. And they knew it. That is why they used it. Delay was the cheapest weapon in the drawer, and they reached for it often. Look at what happened when you stopped paying that bill. The mechanism is simple, chosen one, and it is almost unfair once you see it. Their position depended on your urgency. Urgency is what made you clarify. Clarification is what gave them material. Material is what they shaped into leverage. Remove the urgency, and the whole chain has nothing to hang from. So now the clock runs, and it runs against the one who needs a reaction. Every day you do not respond, your story stays exactly as it is, clean, unedited, whole. Every day they do not hear from you, their version has to stretch further to cover the gap. Yours rests, theirs works overtime. Imagine this, a chess clock on a table between two players, and only one hand is still falling. You pressed your side and stood up and walked out into the afternoon. Somewhere behind you, seconds keep draining that were never yours to lose. Not a single piece on that board has moved. The position is identical to what it was when you left it. And the game is being decided anyway, quietly, entirely, by the side that has to keep spending time while you simply do not. You might wonder whether that is passive. It is not, because a decision to hold is still a decision, and holding is the only move that makes their clock the loudest thing in the room. Here is the line they can't say out loud. Silence costs nothing to the one who is not waiting for anything. So do not reopen the file. Do not send the clarifying note that would settle everything for them and nothing for you. Do not answer the message that was written to restart your clock. The temptation will dress itself up as maturity, as closure, as being the bigger person. It is none of those things. It is a request for you to start funding their position again. No, you did not miss a step. No, you did not go too far. You simply stopped subsidizing a conversation that only worked when you were anxious. This is the new identity, and it is strategic, not emotional. You are not the one holding a grudge. You are the one holding a schedule that belongs to you. Time used to be the current you swam against. It is a current at your back now, and you did not change the water. You changed which direction you were facing. Understand what you are watching in the weeks ahead. Their tone will shift. The approach will get warmer, then more casual, then more urgent. That progression is not affection. It is a clock running low. You have all the time in the world. They do not. That is the entire difference now. Number 12. The door locks from your side. You are not shut out. You are the one holding the latch. Here is where all of it settles. What happened between you and them did not simply change hands. It changed shape. Because before, access to you was assumed. It was the weather. It was always there, requiring nothing, earned by no one. Now, access to you is a decision. A small, quiet decision that gets made by you in a moment only you can see. And that is not a mood. That is architecture. They can apologize. Apologies are welcome, and apologies are fine, and apologies do not reinstall what was removed. They can renegotiate. They can offer better terms than they ever offered before. But terms are for people standing on the same ground, and the ground moved. What they want back is not a conversation. What they want back is the assumption. And the assumption is the one thing that cannot be handed over twice. Imagine this: a gate at the end of a long field, and for years the latch sat on the outside where any passing hand could lift it. Anyone who walked by could let themselves in, and they did, and they called it closeness because it cost them nothing. Then one season the latch was moved. Same gate, same wood, same field on both sides. But now the latch sits on the inside, and it lifts only when a hand on the inside chooses to lift it. Nothing was built, nothing was torn down. One small piece of iron was relocated, and the entire meaning of the gate changed forever. You might wonder why they cannot simply outlast this, why they cannot wait for you to soften and drift back to the old arrangement. Because softness was never the mechanism. The mechanism was reflex, and reflex is what you lost, and a thing like that does not grow back the way a bruise fades. You did not harden, you just stopped answering doors you did not open. Here is the line they can't say out loud. They did not lose your love. They lost your automatic yes, and the automatic yes was the only key they ever had. So they will test the gate, not roughly, gently, at odd hours, with small kindnesses that used to work. And you will notice something strange in yourself, chosen one. Not anger, not triumph, just a quiet accounting. Is this person good for the field? Is this a hand I want inside the fence? And whatever you decide, you will decide it once, on purpose, awake. No, you didn't overcorrect. No, you didn't become cold. Cold would be sealing the gate and pouring concrete. You didn't do that. You left it a gate. It still opens. It opens for the ones who knock and wait, for the ones who bring something, for the ones who understand that being let in is a gift and not a right. That is not a wall. That is a standard. And a standard is what you were missing all those years you called it patience. The button is dead and the latch is yours, and both of those are the same fact told from two sides. You are not on the outside of anything anymore. You are the inside, and the inside sets the terms. So let me gather it all and set it down. They sent a question, you gave no answer, and the silence was the answer. That is the whole arc. Someone came close in a soft voice at a strange hour with a subject that used to move you. They pressed the place that used to hurt, and nothing happened. No heat, no defense, no long explanation of who you have become. Just a person listening, calm, and then going on with the day. No, you did not miss a step. No, you did not go too far. No, you do not owe anyone a demonstration of how far you have come. The proof was never the speech. The proof was the stillness. They will try again, chosen one. Count on it. In a warmer tone, on a better day, wrapped in a kindness that feels almost real. And it will read exactly the same, because the mechanism they are reaching for is no longer connected to anything. The button is dead. Not disabled, not resting, dead. Pressed and pressed and pressed, and the room stays quiet. The latch is still where you moved it. They can push the gate, they can rattle it, they can lean their whole weight on the boards and call your name through the gap. And none of that reaches the small piece of iron on your side of the wood. Imagine this, one last time. A lighthouse never chases a single ship. It does not swim out to argue with the water. It does not lower itself to explain, and it does not go dark to punish anyone. It stands where it stands and keeps burning, and every vessel on that ocean adjusts to it. That is what you are now. Not louder, steadier. Here's the line they can't say out loud. They did not lose you. They lost the handle. So carry it lightly from here, chosen one. You do not have to guard the gate. You only have to keep the latch where it belongs. Let them knock. Let them test. Let them come back with a better story and a kinder face. The answer is already given, and it never has to be spoken again. The quiet you kept was not weakness. It was the end of their leverage. Stand where you stand, chosen one. Keep burning. If this reached the person it was meant for, leave the like. Stay subscribed. The mission continues.